So now we will hear a rebuttal speech from the affirmative side, who wants to eliminate general education, and that speech will be delivered by Brian.
I will be taking prep time. 1 minute.
No problem. I'll start the timer and do some updates on where the time is. Your time starts now. While we're taking some prep, I want to make sure that we're talking about for our current students who are looking for an opportunity to participate in the Titan Speech and Debate team. You are more than welcome to come and meet us up on the 4th floor of College Park, specifically in College Park 430. We have an open door policy and we're always looking for people to come in to find some interest in the team. To join the team, you do have to be in the class. So if you're looking for the course numbers, HCOM 138, HCOM 338, you should probably start with those two sections and we'll work from there, HCOM 138 or 338. But if you start there, we guarantee that we can plug you into not only these types of debate opportunities, but opportunities to do individual speaking events as well. Jess, what is your take on the atmosphere that a student usually encounters when they join Titan Speech and Debate?
I'd say it's pretty welcoming. It's very different from other clubs, specifically since we spend a lot of time together. We're most likely to become friends. It's very warm there. We have cake.
Yeah,
positive. We have cake.
Each other.
And the energy is really good because, you know, you're friends with people, but at the same time you're learning. You're learning a lot of things that will help you in the future and potentially could help you in graduate school.
Absolutely, or whatever career path. Real quick, a time check. You have 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining, Brian.
And prep there.
Got it. We'll stop at 1:30. 1:30 remaining for the affirmative team. And Brian, 4 minutes on the clock for you. Whenever you're ready, you can start your own timer and we can go. Norma, put yourself on mute. Let's make sure we cut ourselves off.
Okay. I would like to start addressing their first argument. First, they argue that they provide a well-rounded education course. We would argue that how are they giving a well-rounded education course when students are going to higher education seeking to major in their courses? Like they're looking to specify on their major or what their career choice. General education takes away from that experience. Students there are mostly there because they want a certain career path. General education to them comes across as more of a barrier or more of a necessity or requirements that they have to go through, that something they have to go through in order to achieve their major. Rather, what we're arguing is that this should be already tackled in our high schools or through K through 12. We can also rework within those systems. We can have those systems teach higher levels or what they wanted general education in the university level to tackle. We can rework our primary and secondary education system to confront higher levels of general education. That does not mean we. Next, they also say that general education equals higher success in other classes. However, we have confronted the issue that students are driven away from going to higher education because they feel like they're forced to take these classes that they've already confronted, or the structure is already similar to what they have gone through most of their lives. They going on to their next argument, they said that general education gives a more diverse pool of meaningful connections. We would argue that this in fact is not true. The students are taking these general education when they're already in these when they already have a major in mind. They're not making meaningful connections because they're in these classes with a already bad mindset. That's what we are arguing. They already have this negative perception of general education. They feel like they're forced to take these classes, so the experience with everyone around them is already influenced by what they're already feeling when they're placed in a class that they have to take in order to get to their major. This experience, and this actually makes their whole college experience worse, and it actually could drive students away from pursuing higher education. Where they also say that general education is needed for undecided students. We are not arguing that general education should not be available to students. However, we should be saying that they should not be a requirement for all students. General education classes could be there for those students who are undecided or unsure on what they want to do in the future. If they want to like transition to another major, or like they're not sure like what major they want to do, they should always have the option for general classes. However, general classes should not be mandatory for students to be taking if they already have a major in mind. They also say that general education, we will also argue that general education is an antiquated model. Our Harvard study proves that they had a rework system with general educations, and students did not engage in this system because they did not like the general education system. What students now want is a straightforward path to their major. They don't want to deal with this whole road with having to take general education classes to broaden their experience and broaden their knowledge. And this was an antiquated model when universities first started, where people wanted to have a wide variety of knowledge on many very on various topics. However, the newer generations are not interested, and they're interested in focusing more on their majors. Next, their argument was that we'll tackle their next argument that says that general education helps students ease, or like helps them ease into the college experience. What we'll say is that we should again, like there's the college experience should be something that students see college as something where they're practicing their major, something that they're already starting their major, like they're already going to be going into their major. This is what the students nowadays see college as. Rather, if we have general education courses forced upon students, it's just they do not put as much effort into these classes. They have to either choose between focusing in their general education classes or their major classes, and most of the time students give up most of their available time on focusing on these general education classes, which at the end of the day, most of these students don't take seriously or don't even like taking these classes. How much time do I have left?
Sorry, you can end it whenever you're ready. I thought I was unmuted.
Oh yeah, I think I'll end it there.
Solid. What we'll do now is transition into a time of cross-examination. There are 3 minutes on the clock for cross-ex between Brian and Norma. And this cross-examination will start off with Norma asking the first question to Brian.
Okay, I want to first highlight, I want you to highlight the part of the warrant that justifies the reason why students don't like taking general education courses, or meaning that part of the warrant. I want you to highlight.
So what we're saying is that general education courses generally have a negative perception, or seen in a negative light, and when students are already forced into these general education classes, they're not too happy about it, which just lowers this whole college experience for them. It takes it away from them.
So you're saying that just students aren't happy taking those classes? Just a follow-up.
Well, we'll argue that students who already have a clear idea of what they want to do in their future do not feel like they should be taking general classes. Okay. I want to address your question about how general education courses improve the experience for students.
Yeah, so we highlighted several ways in which general education offer you better adds on to the experience, one being that the diverse, we'll argue that diverse exposure to several types of understanding different types of courses will help you in develop a better more comprehensive education, making you more knowledgeable and at least having a good set of basic understanding in several areas. So when you walk out into society, you're more knowledgeable about different things, making you a better member, as well as helping you. I can keep going. I have other reasons. So things that add on to the experience, things that the networking and being able to have those unique skills, having at least some skills within those different areas.
Norma, you have the next question.
My bad. Yeah.
It's
So,
fine.
my next question has to do with your idea that we should change the ways in which college classes work. You brought up things like hybrid classes. I want you to more elaborate as to why that's a reason to eliminate general education, because you kind of seem to say that we should just change them the way they work.
So what we're arguing is that instead of having these old models of having like 2 writing classes, we can eliminate 1 writing class and have like a major class heavily focused on writing, which would then cover what that original writing class that was eliminated would also be covered in their major class.
But how is that not already happening? Like, we already have these types of classes, but what we're saying is that having like, say, like, how would that work for, like, say, a mathematics class, for example?
Well, like and one of our articles gave out an interesting example where like a dance teacher could use mathematics for the steps and such like that. It's more of a technical implementation. We're not saying it's impossible. It's still possible. It just would require a lot more work.
Okay.
That concludes this portion of cross-examination.
Thank you very much, Norma and Brian. And so now we're transitioning to the last stage of the debate, which is the closing state. Does anyone need prep time before we move on?
Take prep.
You want to take some prep, Norma? That you all have 3 minutes on the clock, so I'll start the timer. 3 minutes starting now. While prep is happening for these closing statements, I want to get the perspective of a first-year student on our squad who has transitioned from high school to college debate. Talk a little bit about his experience, give a shout out to where he's from, and talk about the best part of being on Cal State Fullerton speech and debates team. Barlos, talk to us. Where you're from, what are you up to, how's your transition been?
Right now, I'm as many of the people on the Zoom call are like pretty much alumni of a little debate league in Los Angeles called Lambdal, which provided a really cool opportunity for like high schoolers to come into debate. And when I decided to pick a college, I decided the one that had, one of the most cool and diverse coaching pools, as well as one of the like coolest and nicest like people that I've met in my debate career in high school also going there. So obviously seeing them come along and being able to come into that group and be comfortable immediately because I knew who those people were, I can trust them and that they could trust me, really blended a lot of us into like this really nice group of people that can help each other when we need it and always be there for each other anywhere. Like at tournaments, it's always nice to see each other's faces in the hallway regardless, because we know we're going to come back together in the same plane, but it's still nice to see people out even though we know we're just hanging out with each other at a tournament. Even then, debate just helps make everything so much sense, and when you're doing it with people you enjoy being with, it makes the experience all the more better.
Absolutely. Big shout out to the LA Metro Urban Debate League, doing a great job in the LA Metro area, really bringing a lot of young people into the craft and making sure that we have great students to bring in to transition into college debate. Real quick, while Norma's still prepping, want to let her know that you have 1 minute, 20 seconds left on the clock for the negative to prep. But real quick, Harut has transitioned over from Fullerton College and has done a great job getting adjusted not only on the team, but into the university writ large. Harut, tell us your secret. What has been for you the best part of transitioning into the Titan speech and debate team?
That's a good question. I think that as like somebody who transitioned from like a 2-year college, I think the biggest fear that people have is that at a 2-year you get very comfortable very fast, and it's kind of like you get propelled into an environment that is very unknown to a lot of people. And so for me, knowing that kind of just like how Barlos had straight out of high school, knowing that I had kind of an avenue and like people that I can go and that were like a direct resource that I knew that I was going to be comfortable with and that I knew were going to be a great resource for me, was the biggest sort of way that I alleviated a lot of the fears of transitioning into a 4-year university. And I know that's the same of people that are sort of involved in any kind of extracurricular activity. But I think the speech and debate team definitely has like a very unique kind of environment where it's just kind of welcoming to people that have been doing the activity for 6 years, or for those who have been doing the activity for 2 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a great time picking up everybody from transitioning and transferring students to incoming fries, to students who just happen to look up in their course calendar or course catalog rather and see that the forensics team exists. So again, HCOM 138, 338 are the course numbers for you if you're interested in joining this team. I stopped the clock for Norma at 57 seconds for the negative. And now we are prepared to, as just mentioned, transition into the final portion of the debate known as the closing statements. Who will be giving, I know we're hearing from the affirmative, which affirmative speaker is giving our first closing statement? Is it Norma? I think it is. No, it'll be Barlow's, right?
It says that the second affirmative closing statement is by the second affirmative.
There, let's do it. We're inverting the order, so the person who spoke first will speak last. That makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right,
let's do it.
Okay. So to begin, I think I would like to re-articulate how we are orienting our responses to how we are talk about general education courses. The idea of eliminating general education courses in effect and in practice forces a rework for primary and secondary general education curriculums to reduce the chances of seeing it again in universities, which is something that if universities really were to remove general courses, it forces students from the beginning thought process of going to college to be able to think about their major along the way. It's substantially easier for a student to fill their schedule up with general classes and not think about or focus on their major, which if the affirmative were to eliminate all general education courses, refocuses students to do what they think they should be doing in college, rather what they think they should be doing, which is something that is substantially easier for students to be able to, you know, make a marketable version of themselves, or to be associated in a network of people who have, you know, connections to people to get you the jobs. Those kinds of things, and the way you reorient your mind once entering college, is the thing that allows you to enact yourself in a manner that makes you successful, not the ability for you to have extra classes on top of the ones you think you should have. The other argument that I think that that the second affirmative speech highlighted well is that students are open about not wanting to take or need to take general education courses. On the first day icebreakers, people will always say in the circle, I took the class because I needed to take it, rather than a very enthusiastic choice to be able to be in that class. The ability for one to only focus on their major gives them the actual incentive to be able to give themselves to the curriculum that can allow them to be successful in the first place. And even then, the idea of a comprehensive education forcing general education classes reduces the value of K through 12 schooling, because if it were to be as important as it was in college, then we shouldn't be having it in college in the first place, because college not only is getting more expensive, it also takes more time as classes become virtual and or become more intensive in terms of like the material.
Very solid. Thank you very much. Now it's time for our first closing statement from the negative team. I believe we're about to hear from Harut.
Okay, good. So I would like to give some final reasons on why general education classes are good and why you should vote negative today. First, general education requirements are essential for students who are transitioning from high school to college. The classes are generally easier than major courses and are a good way of providing students a foundation for students to work from long after they graduate college. College isn't purely designed to make students hyper-specialized in a certain topic, but rather as an institution they seek to make good and capable citizens in and out of their selected majors. Taking general education classes makes students more capable of completing your degree writ large. Remember, the skills that people gain in general education classes don't exist in a vacuum, but rather are a part of a long-term goal of building your character and knowledge base. In an ideal world, K through 12 education should be tasked with all the core requirements. But let's remember that K through 12 is not the same as college level education. Many of the general education classes go beyond the curriculum of K through 12 education, and it is in these instances that general education thrives. Second, The largest argument that my opponent keeps focusing on is the argument of cost. They argue that general education makes it more expensive for students to complete their degrees, and this is just false, as many universities already offer scholarships, financial aid, grants to help students complete their degrees. But more importantly, let's remember, if we remove general education classes, that gap would simply be filled with major-related classes that would keep the cost of college the same. Their criticism of the cost of college lives in a separate debate about the cost of education. This debate has simply been about whether general education classes have a fundamental value, and the affirmative has not done a sufficient enough work to prove that they are. Let's remember, our future employers are becoming less and less interested in how much experience we have in our major, but rather are looking at how well-rounded of a potential employees we are. General education classes are vital to making sure that we become well-versed in literatures and schools of thought apart from our major. Lastly, I would like to reiterate that general education classes are a more important site of network building. And for all those reasons and the ones above, I hope that you vote negative to keep general education.
Understood. Solid closing statements, Jess.
Okay, and so before we start our closing statements, does anyone from this portion of the debate need any additional prep time?
There's 1:30 left available for the affirmative team and 57 seconds left for the nay.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna off the affirmative's closing statement, and I believe it's Norma.
Would you like to take some prep, Norma?
Wait, I thought it was affirmative.
It is. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry.
It's 2 minutes, correct?
It is 2 minutes.
Okay. I would like to start off that the affirmative has done a well job explaining why general education courses should be removed as a requirement. We believe we're winning the debate because we're explaining the question of what general courses bring to the table. We are ahead on the priority question. There is no reason why we can still have general courses available to students, but at the same time, not a requirement. We have done a well job explaining how general courses have taken away from college experience because they've already have a negative perception from populations, as my partner explained in his previous speech. Usually when we do icebreakers within class, students are always saying, I took this class because I had to. I took this class because it was a requirement. Again, when students are forced to take something, it takes away that much more from the experience, because it just keeps this negative mindset on the student where we have to take this class in order to get to our major, when most of the students here are here because they want to major in something. And again, we're not saying that general education classes should be eliminated altogether. What we're saying is that it should be eliminated as a requirement. General education classes can be there for the students who do not feel they are ready to go into their major classes, or for students who still have no idea what they want to get into. General classes will be available, and these students can always take these classes. However, the question comes down to, should we force the students to take these classes? And we believe that the students should not be forced to take these classes, because it takes away that much more from the college experience, and it also makes students getting their major, finishing their major and college a lot longer. We also say that the negatives arguments is what their negatives argument is, just this whole like experience and what it brings to the table. But again, this is having general classes and not having general classes not mandatory can better our college experience, and also help students focus their time on what they're majoring. That is all. Thank you. Vote affirmative.
We have made our way to the final closing statement in this debate. 57 seconds are available to the negative team if they would like some prep. But if not, Norma, you can give your speech. Good to go.
We can prep.
No problem. Taking prep, 57 seconds on the clock. Your time starts now. I think the only person we haven't had a chance to hear from around this circle is the person who just gave a speech and just spoke by the name of Brian Perez. Brian is also an incoming frosh here on the team. And I'm really curious, Brian, what has been the highlight so far of your first year transitioning to debating at Titan Speech and Debate?
I think the highlight was just how easy it was to transition to the team. Like, it was just, everyone was just so accepting and just so friendly. And I get like this whole family vibe from everyone. Where like if we knew each other for like such a long time, even though I've only been there for like a semester and a half. And I think that's one of the best college experience I've had already. Like, most of my other classes, people are just there, just like keeping to themselves, just trying to get by, trying to get their classes done. Rather in debate, it just feels just so familiar and just friendly, and I just love that.
Certainly, certainly. Time has elapsed for Norma. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of this debate with you all. We'll check in with each other shortly at the end of this particular speech before we send off. But for right now, let's listen to the final closing statement from the negative team by Norma Delgado.
Okay, so let's just start now. So what their side is lacking, what their side of the argument is lacking, is that general education to offer a unique value to the college education experience without that requirement, without that set of foundation. The affirmative has no way to ensure those skills if they remove that requirement. But that being that they don't account for that set of uncertainty, the feeling of uncertainty that exists when students are transferring regardless if they're transferring from high school or from like community college or whatever. That feeling of uncertainty exists. Therefore, like, as having a set of college general education courses exposed and enforced through the general education requirement offers you availability and forcibly introduces students to having that more successful avenue to success. Well, like, I'd like to highlight that one Warren from the one issue that explains that the general education course having a well-rounded exposure pushes students to interact with students from other diverse set of courses and also a different set of schools of thought that adds to the college experience by making students more successful in other classes, while also making students more employable. So you should think about like the biology major who's so not forced to take humanities-based courses, that humanities classes that introduces you to critical thinking and innovation makes that biology student more employable when they choose to compete for a job. But that makes them, which it adds to not only adds to the college experience but adds to the career experience post their academics. So we'll also argue that success, those unique skills and networking that general education offers you, the diversity in that is more uniquely valuable than having just having been exposed to that in more narrow and more and less like diverse knowledge. Therefore, you should vote for the negative because we access better skills and education.
This is a speech. Sometimes you have to just keep rolling it out until the very last minute, but this is the exact thing that we play for. This is what we speak for. This is what we critically think for. This is what we prepare for. The opportunity to share ideas and perspectives with each other about the very lives that we live on a day-to-day basis. Not some weird topic that's disconnected to our day-to-day lives, but literally the people taking and teaching general education courses ourselves. So we are so excited and appreciative of you all tuning into this particular debate. I'm very curious, and I wish we can listen to some of your reasons why you would vote the way that you did, but I want to know, would you vote affirmative or would you vote negative? Do you agree that eliminating general education courses for those who just don't want to be there, who feel like they need an easier path to their degrees, who just can find networking opportunities all over the place? Do you think that they should not have to deal with general education courses? Or do you take the side that say we need these types of courses? We need diverse experiences. We need to be able to meet different types of people. We need options for those who don't necessarily have the future all etched out by the time they start the college process. What do you believe? I'm very excited to know about what your perspective is. Talk to a neighbor, talk to a friend, share the links that connected you to this video so that other people can share their opinions as well. Jess, I want to check in with you real quick. Drop me your number one reason why people should stay connected or stay in touch with the Titan Speech and Debate team.
Because we're amazing.
We are amazing. And to prove we're amazing, I want to give a special shout out again to the debaters that we have who participated today. Carlos Carrasco. I also want to shout out Brian Perez. Those are our affirmative debaters, and the negative team of Norma Delgado and Harut Kajijian. Shout out to our directors of forensics, Dr. Erica Thomas, as well as Dr. Shanera Reed Brinkley, our assistant director of forensics, Max Begrove, our assistant coach, Jess Terrell, as well as Roman Rajan, as well as Anthony Joseph. We've had so many amazing people be a part of this experience, but the most important amazing person is the people or person watching this on the screen. So thank you so much for tuning in. You have just participated in a Titan debate. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. See you soon.